one would be better than the other. Alice sat on the city council, and we're having fluoride poisoned into our water, along with mercury, lead, and arsenic. She sat on the city council and has done nothing to terminate the poisoning of the people of this. Now, Santa Barbara had the same fluoridation thing put to them, and they said, no way. We know better than that. Santa Barbara was wiser than Santa Maria. In 1964, Santa Maria voted down fluoridation too. But it's been a whole different generations come in. And the money that greased palms, I wish I could prove it. I wish I had videotape, but I don't.
Okay.
But and she could have done something, and she didn't do anything but just sit there and collect her salary and vote along with the rest. I'm very disappointed in her. And I've asked her to come on the show so I could ask her some specific questions. Hello, Alice, you're still invited, even though you're too busy having coffees with 10 and 12 people at a time. And Steve, I've talked to, he said we're going to do it. He just didn't say when. I think they're both fine people. I'm not saying they're not.
Yeah, they are, but I know them both.
But I know them both too. But I just think I'm disappointed in Alice Patina. She could have done a lot of good things, and she just went along with the flow, and she didn't raise any, and that bothers me because there's so many things wrong. I hope whichever people win the county supervisors, they will look at this issue that Mr. GanDrud, it just doesn't work for me, Mr. GanDrud. Mr. GanDrud brought up a very valid issue, and this is why I like to have candidates come in. They know things I don't even know.
And I want to tell you that the public safety employees, who I think are very important, because I really believe that the purpose of government in a free society is to protect our liberty. And it's very important that our tax money is spent wisely and that we have sheriff's deputies, that criminals are kept in jail. People who have harmed other people belong in jail.
You know, have really physically harmed
people.
Yeah,
real harmed people.
Not
criminals.
Not non-custodial parents.
Not victimless
Not non-custodial parents that lost their job and get thrown in jail because some dingbat judge says, well, if you don't pay your child support, I'm going to throw you in jail. That, to me, is ridiculous. We have, now, I got to tell you, I've checked this on the East Coast, and I checked it in our county. Finally, somebody gave me the numbers. About 10% of our jail holdings are just non-custodial parents who lost their job and can't pay. So we fill up the jails with them, where they still can't pay and they can't even look for a job. But this way they feel they're punishing them. And judges like Herman and Colleen Stern and Denise DeBellefleur and these kind of folks, they're doing this to our citizens whose only crime is to be unemployed and they can't pay something that a judge ordered them to pay. Instead of reducing the child support and said, well, you can't pay because you're out of work, keep looking for work, or you got a job flipping burgers for $7 an hour, okay, we're going to reduce your salary. They don't do that. They keep the child support wherever it was set. They never lower it, and they fill up the jails. And I checked in a jail on the East Coast, and I got the actual guy who worked in the jail on the East Coast on tape. But in Santa Barbara, do you think the guy that leaked me that information will go on tape and tell me that? Well, that was a little while ago, and that was one of the two. I think the other guy is Mr. Cheng.
Cheng, yes.
Cheng
yes.
is also running. We've offered Michael, just for the record, left him a message to give him equal time too. What do you think, Mr. Hagen, can be done about spiking? Whose responsibility it is to stop spiking? Because I don't think the voters understand what spiking is or what it's about, but it's costing them money. And some people are saying we're $1 billion in unfunded liabilities for pensions in this county. Yeah. True or false?
Well, the number I don't think is correct. I think the last time I looked at the actuarial study, which the last time they did one was June 30th, 2009. And I think on an actuarial basis, the unfunded liability was $580 million. I mean, these are still astronomical numbers.
Only $500 million.
Exactly.
Oh, well, that makes me feel better.
But actually, you're going to feel worse in a minute here. On a fair value, because remember, the gains and losses are smoothed, right? I believe on a fair value or a real value it was about 850 million, something like that. But the market's also come back since June 30th of 2009. I mean, clearly it's come back. But the question was about spiking. And, you know, the Board of Supervisors, at Joe Centeno's urging, just commissioned a committee of 5 citizens to look at the retirement system. The retirement system benefits are granted by Board of Supervisors. That's who grants the benefits. the Board of Retirement, a separate legal entity. They administer the benefits and administer disabilities. That's what their function is. But the benefits are granted by the Board of Supervisors only, those 5 members. The spiking, absolutely it happens. Absolutely. Some of it's case law, I believe, that it's been taken to court and certain things have been deemed to be included as salary. And I'm not an expert in this area, but there are things that can be done to fix the retirement system. Some of it has to come from the state level because Santa Barbara's not alone in this.
What could, assuming our county supervisors had the backbone to do anything, which I really doubt, but supposing they did, what could they do to stop spiking?
Well, some of the spiking that occurs are when people, say, cash out vacation time, right? Or they have a 1-year final average salary. Now, I think most employees are back to the 3-year final average salary. I'm not certain on that, but let's go on the assumption that everyone's on a 1-year final average salary. You know, that encourages people to go into positions for 1 year, and then their final average salary is that number multiplied by their index number, right? You know, and that's based upon your age and then years of service. A 3-year final average salary would prevent a lot of that.
Why not just have them have an average salary based on all the years instead of just the last 3? Just take the...
I think you'd have to have the legislature...
Do you think that'd take...
There's certain formulas in the law that allow that you can adopt how the retirement pension is calculated.
Well, that's a lost cause, isn't it?
That sounds like a loaded question to me.
It is a loaded question. Very perceptive candidate. I think Mr. Hagen has got his thinking cap on here tonight. What do you think, Cassandra, about spiking? Do you like the idea that you get to pay extra because these people plan to take their vacations in the last year or 2 or 3, so they get the maximum for the rest of their life, even though they only worked maybe 18, 20 years?
No, because if I'm paying for it, I don't believe it's fair. I think that it should be based off of what they make, and their vacation times and stuff like that shouldn't be added into it. It should just basically be based off of salary that they're making at the time.
Let me clarify. The vacation, I believe it's only 2 weeks that people can add to that.
Can use for spiking.
Right.
Even if they've got 3 weeks accrued and they pile it all in.
They
You
can
get paid.
actually use up to 60 days of their vacation time to spike with.
I think it's only 2 weeks. You get paid for it when you separate. You'll get paid for it, but I don't believe it goes into your salary.
Who
Again, I
would
could be
know
wrong.
for sure, Mr. Hagen? You're running for this office.
The retirement board would know.
So we
That's
need
who
to
calcu-
contact the retirement board and see what they say, because they're the final authority.
That they look at the salary and they compute the retirement benefit. Yes.
Excuse me if I seem unfriendly to these hardworking government employees that ignore me when I go into office and try to get their attention. Mr. Holland, for one, who runs the elections, a recorder, who has no opposition, came knocking on my door. Hello, Mr. Wagener, I'm running. I said, oh, really? Who are you? I'm Joe. He came right to my door. He promised anytime I wanted to do an interview, he would do the interview. Now, I've been trying to get an interview with him for 4 or 5 years. He's always too busy. Are you going to be too busy if you're elected treasurer and I come to you and I say, well, I'd like to get an interview on tape with you, Mr. Hagen, about some issue. Are you going to be too busy?
You know, my campaign and the way I've conducted myself, covered my mic, accountability and transparency. So if you came and asked for an interview and it was a relevant topic, I mean, as long as we're not talking about sports or
Yeah, I'm not going to ask.
whatever it is. I mean, as long as it's pertinent, sure. I don't see why not. I mean, it's good for the public to see how the inner workings of government, you know, how it works.
I think it is too. I think my personal feeling is we should terminate most of these pensions after 5 or 10 years. It should not be forever and ever and ever. We have the technology now. I mean, when I was a young man, people who are my age now were getting ready to die. They didn't live very long. They'd retire at 62 and they were dead by 64, 65. And Social Security didn't have to pay very long. It was pretty rare to see anybody make it to 85 or 90. Now that's pretty common. And it's not that I want to short service people. I think they should get paid what they're worth while they're working. Just like the guy that flips hamburgers. He doesn't get a retirement after flipping hamburgers for 5 years at McDonald's or Taco Bell or wherever. And they say, well, you worked for 5 years here. I guess we're going to give you a pension for the rest of your life. Or even if you worked there for 20 years, they don't give them a pension for the rest of their life. And I think we've created a class of bureaucrats that have got America so angry that they're forming Tea Party conventions. They just took Mr. Bennett, Senator Bennett out of Utah, got defeated in his own Republican primary. What's his name? The big Israeli lobbyist, Senator Lieberman from Connecticut, 4 years ago, was defeated in his Democrat primary.
Right, yeah.
We looked at a guy in West Virginia, defeated in his primary this year. The people are now getting so angry, they don't care what your political label is. They want you out.